2027. Gia was shocked to learn that she was someone that had the special connection with Mothra. According to the Iwi here in Hollow Earth, she had the power to summon the Mothra Prime, the golden angel of the heavens. With her power, they could stop the Skar King from his wrath. But she was still really hesitant. Gia was about to climb up the pyramid structure, ready to summon her, but in this timeline, she was scared. And these fatal moments were long enough for this timeline to go to hell. By the time Gia made it up there, Godzilla and Kong's battle had taken a turn for the worse as Godzilla's beam cut through the pyramids. Mothra Prime hadn't been born yet, meaning she was already on the way to stop their battle. Gia extended her hand out while Godzilla slammed Kong through the sand cloud. Gia's hand formed golden strings that formed Mothra's glowing body, extending her wings out with majestic calls, looking at Gia with a welcoming gaze. But Kong wasn't so lucky. In this universe, things take a change for the worst. Godzilla's pink dorsals begin glowing as a foot crushes Kong's chest, pinning him down and ready to kill him. Kong desperately tried to free himself, but it was too late, and Mothra Prime wasn't going to save him. I am Azarus. I am a watcher. Embark with me on this journey as we explore the question, what if Godzilla killed Kong in the new empire? Godzilla's atomic breath shot out, the pink energy burning Kong's face off first and then spread to his neck and the rest of the body. Kong's painful roar didn't make it past the sound of flames and smoke, turning Kong to a charred skeleton. The great ape was dead. Now for Skar King. Godzilla leaves, feeling no remorse as Mothra then arrives to the surface. Mothra Prime, Gia on her head looking at Godzilla, then to Kong's dead corpse. Gia instantly broke down, crying in pain of losing Kong, and blamed herself for what had happened, which she wasn't too wrong about. Mothra Prime slapped her wing at Godzilla's happy face, who roared at him in frustration. What was he thinking? But then again, he never really thinks. Godzilla then realized that maybe he shouldn't have done that, as Kong could have been an invaluable ally against Skar King. Or Gia could think about how, if she wasn't so scared, she could have summoned Mothra faster and saved Kong. But it was too late for that now. Kong was dead, and there was nothing that could bring him back now. Mothra Prime and Godzilla went back down where Skar King's forces had arrived. The vertices were a good distraction, but Shimo destroyed them with her beam. Then Skar King heard it, looking up in fear and hatred. The king of the monsters broke through the surface of the ground, his pink dorsal plates flashing a vibrant color. Mothra Prime took to the sky, staying above in hopes of ambushing the army. Skar King and Shimo charged, the three roaring out and about to make impact, but before they could, the gravity was turned to a zero, as suddenly everyone was sent flying. Skar King landed a boulder, Shimo and Godzilla locking eyes on each other. Godzilla ripped Kong's apart, one eye attacking and then putting his shoulders, but Godzilla released a pulse and burnt him to a crisp. Godzilla lunged for Shimo, the two keeping each other busy. Skar King grinned, jumping towards the nearby vortex to get out of here once and for all, but Mothra Prime's god ray sent him flying back, having to multitask, stopping Skar King and saving the humans in their heave vehicle. But now she had to save Godzilla from getting frozen by Shimo's blast, leaving Skar King to heave to distract Shimo, causing a great ape to destroy the heave with the humans inside, killing them on our crew. Skar King lunged for the vortex, the gravity returning, which caused all the fighters to fall, where they arrived in their final battle, Rio. Skar King crashed into the sand, Shimo freezing the waters and landing. Skar King was nearly blinded by the sun, but saw he finally had arrived to the surface, being his objective for millions upon millions of years. With a massive grin, Skar King roared over the pathetic humans, getting the crystal that makes Shimo cause the Ice Age to complete his plan for extinction. Skar King roared in victory until Shimo was sent flying away. Skar King looked over, seeing Godzilla hadn't given up yet. Skar King ordered Shimo to attack, Shimo getting up as Godzilla rammed her through a building. Without to know their opponent, Skar King aided Shimo in attacking Godzilla, the two combined tiring the king out, forcing him to supercharge. Mothra Prime arrived, webbing Skar King down to give Godzilla a lighter load. Godzilla and Shimo kept throwing, blasting, and clawing at each other, but Shimo's physical strength was still superior to the king, knocking him down and beginning to freeze him. Godzilla tried to pull himself free, but Shimo forced out more and more ice to freeze him completely. Skar King got himself free, using his whip to knock Mothra Prime out of the sky. Mothra Prime's back nearly broke from hitting the ground so hard, looking up at the dictator. She begged him not to do this, but Skar King has fallen the deepest he could. He ordered Shimo to blast her, the frostbite cannon turning Mothra to ice. Skar King whipped her body and turned her to shattered pieces, and the two turned back to Godzilla, trying to pulse himself free. Skar King laughed, ordering Shimo to finish this battle. Godzilla pulsed again, breaking the ice, but Shimo wasn't stopping when it came to her beam, freezing Godzilla's face once again and raising her claws. With his final strike, she'd end up once and for all and give Skar King victory. But is this worth it? Even with all the years of torture, should she do it and seal humanity's fate? Skar King saw her hesitation and used the crystal, making her hit her head on the ground. Godzilla began charging up his pulse, ready to free himself, but Shimo had no choice. Before he could pulse, Shimo slammed her claws down, destroying Godzilla's upper half in the process. When the steaming ice cleared, Godzilla was now only half of what he was, literally, and Shimo had blood covering her white, pristine claws. Skar King roared in victory, holding up his axe and crystal up into the air, with nothing but pride, having conquered the surface. But this war was far from over. Over the next months, humanity's numbers dwindled from either Skar King's forces or the cold. Skar King had gotten to the rest of his army to give him strength, as nothing could hope to stop him now. The Ice Age froze crops and waters, giving billions frostbite and turning over 90% of humans to frozen statues. Skar King's army took over the surface, turning it into a frozen wasteland where some of humanity hid. And for the Titans, hunted down. Amulet fell first, so they had frozen when the Ice Age started. Then Behemoth and Quetzalcoatl met their fates as Shimo and Skar King patrolling nearby. Rodan froze to death while Abaddon couldn't handle it in a weaker state. More Titans like Yamato no Orochi, Typhon, Baphomet, Leviathan, and plenty more tried to fight back, but Skar King's army was too much for them. Soon, only a few Titans remained that were constantly on the run. Nakika, the Queen Muto, and Orochi. Being an Alpha Titan who had no intention of staying aside to Skar King's role, Yamato no Orochi was ready to fight. But he needed to get Skar King away from Shimo somehow. Currently hiding out in Antarctica to stay clear of their radar, he hears footsteps. Orochi looks forward, ready to defend himself. If Skar King found him, he would be ready, not wanting to go out without a fight. As he did, his flames lighting up his mouth, he noticed an eerie red glow. Orochi roared out, ready to fight this Titan. It felt familiar, but he couldn't put his claws on it. But then, as quickly as the glow disappeared, a massive claw lunged forward right through his chest, the creature lunging at him and ripped him apart. And just like that, Orochi was no more. But what? What could have just killed such a powerful Titan in only seconds? It has been 6 months since the Skar King's takeover, and a bastion of the remaining members of humanity stand together to defeat the Conqueror. Deep in Siberia in a war bunker, Ibavan cybernetics have been making a weapon to defeat Skar King.
We call it Kiryu.
Ibavan, head of the operation, explained. And there Kiryu stood, in the place where a nuclear warhead should be. Kiryu resembles more of Godzilla than the original Mechagodzilla, most likely because the skeleton of Godzilla changing its posture. Kiryu stayed there, lifeless and frozen, where Ford Brody climbed into the head to begin piloting, who had signed up to protect his family.
We equipped Kiryu with acidic-tipped radiation-infused fighter blades that are packed with proton energy, designed for cutting monsters apart. If we land a hit on the Red Kong, then we can likely kill him instantly. Now, Titanishimo is a different story, which is why we created the absolute -1 cannon. This can produce enough heat and energy to destroy Titanishimo's beam while being shot, even if she ups it with all of her energy.
He turned, smiling, as Kiryu expanded his arms to reveal a cannon over his chest, not charged up to endanger anyone or the structure itself.
Kiryu, the last hope. May God have mercy on us all,
he whispered. Ford giving a thumbs up and blasted Kiryu off into the sky. Kiryu had enough energy to last for months without recharge, and if everything goes well, this battle should only take a few minutes. Skar King and Shimo charge, Shimo lunging forward and biting down onto a tentacle. Titanus Nakika, one of the last titans to kill. Nakika had attacked the remains of a nuclear facility, the Byron Clear Energy Center, Nakika's last attempt to stop Skar King. Through her abilities, she can drain Titan energy with the touch of her tentacles, being a useful weapon to slow Shimo down, but physically she was still no match. Skar King smiled, knowing he was going to win, until 1,000 missiles struck the ground, some hitting his back, but most exploded to the ground, sending Skar King and his army flying away. Skar King got back up, looking up to see Kiryu flying in, charging up a beam. Skar King's eyes widened in fear, running away and dodging the beam. Kiryu unleashed an electrical energy blast, burning whatever he hit, killing Great Ape in the process while Shimo threw Nakika into Kiryu to stop him. The Skar King ordered Shimo to attack this new opponent. Shimo was forced to obey, shooting her beam at Kiryu, but before the beam could freeze him, Kiryu shot the absolute -1 cannon, blasting a beam of energy from his chest that destroyed the beam and sent Shimo flying away, scorching her chest. Unlike the Kiryu you're familiar with, this does the polar opposite. Instead of freezing, it heats things to a really, really painful degree. Kiryu got ready to attack Skar King, but when Ford looked around, he was gone. He looked around, only for Skar King to attack from behind, the crystal web going around Kiryu's neck. Kiryu struggled, trying to pry himself free. It wouldn't choke, obviously, but Ford could hear the bolts begin to break. Using the jet thrusters, Kiryu blasted off into the air and threw Skar King off. Kiryu flew back in, activating the acidic blades, flying in at Skar King, but Shimo shot her, being just in time to freeze Kiryu and knock him away. Kiryu's frozen body crashed into the ground, nearly shattering it. Ford managing to survive, but greatly injured. Skar King's laugh echoed throughout the battlefield, beating his chest like he saw Kong do and roared in victory. His sadistic grin turned to a dying Nikika. Nikika's roar was silenced by Shimo's beam freezing her, turning her to solid ice, to which the Skar King shattered with pleasure. With victory accomplished and humanity's last hope gone, he turned back to Shimo until he heard a loud roar. The last Titan alive was here, the only one who could stop Skar King, and she wasn't alone. The Queen Muto, or Barb, now evolved into the Muto Prime, with nearly 1,000 Mutos behind her. Barb had fed off some of Skar King's kills to consume their radiation and evolve into the Muto Prime, planting the spores into Orochi. She felt bad for doing that to him, but she had no choice, or she would join the rest of the fallen Titans. With Orochi's radiation and Barb dragging more Titan bodies, the radiation sped up the Muto spores being born, evolving into adults in only a few months, having their own spawn, and effectively forming an army. She now stood at 410 feet and weighed over 140,000 tons, only slightly stronger than the previous Prime, but she had the experience of a proper Titan to fit her powerful body. Barb roared as Skar King felt the sun vanish as thousands of black wings covered the sky, while the earth shaked from the females charging in. Barb slammed her fist into the ground, roaring to challenge Skar King, the last battle for the fate of the earth. Ford got out of Kiryu, watching to see which army would doom humanity's fate. This was the last stand and the end of humanity, no matter what side won. Barb charged in first, Skar King running back to Shimo for defense. He aimed the crystal right at Barb, Shimo charging up her blast, but Barb used her sonic roar to disrupt her, Barb running in and knocking Shimo down. She began punching Shimo's skull repeatedly with all her force, Shimo roaring in pain before throwing her off. Shimo shook her head from her short concussion and charged up an attack, but was stopped by a dozen male Mutos swarming her and throwing her off balance to protect their queen. The females arrived not too long after, ramming Shimo over and over and cutting her up. Skar King began running, Barb burrowing underground to get a head start. Skar King looked back, seeing Shimo getting overrun by the army, and then taken off guard by Barb appearing right under him. Skar King jumped off, just in time to not get grabbed, using the crystal whip to cut Barb's face, but otherwise barely even made her bleed for a drop of blood. The Skar King ordered Shimo to attack Barb, but Shimo was still getting overrun. Shimo alone was the strongest of them all, but not even she could take on this army all alone. As she was beginning to bleed out, her crystal was beginning to break and one of her eyes getting stabbed too, starting to lose badly. The females kept stabbing and biting while the males swiped their claws repeatedly into her and took off to circle back. Shimo was killing them, but she was trying to slow down as her energy was withering away, corpses piling up. Skar King watched in terror as his great ape army was nothing now but bodies, Shimo's scales covering the ground, her white scales now covered in red and blues from her own and the Muto army's blood. Skar King was too late to turn around as Barb shot her sonic roar, shattering the crystal on Skar King's whip nearly instantly. Skar King was sent flying back by the shockwave, the Muto army falling off Shimo. Her eye intact returned to normal, sensing she was free, and stared at Skar King, who was getting off the ground. Barb called off her Mutos, wanting to see what was next. Wobbly, Shimo walked over, Skar King trying to find his crystal but realized it was gone. He looked back, roaring for mercy, but Shimo wasn't giving him anything. Shimo slashed her claws into his chest, cutting him up. She was weakened, but had just enough energy to stay alive for the next few minutes. Shimo slashed, clawed, kicked, punched, and bit down into Skar King while the Mutos all watched until Skar King's eyes finally went pale, missing his legs and an arm from the relentless Shimo, his body now covered in blood that mixed with his fur. Shimo now had barely a single white skull on her, turning to Barb with a weakened face. Shimo tried to say anything to Barb, but she died in only seconds, showing her stomach had been ripped open by the Mutos earlier. She was dead. But Shimo had a smile on her face. She got revenge and can now finally rest. Barb turned over to the Muto army, all roaring in victory over the fallen wastelands. Humanity buried themselves as deep as possible to evade the Mutos, eventually dying out in the same generation due to a disease. For the next few years, the Mutos depleted the Earth's resources and killed every living thing, wiping out the surface first, which only took a few days from Skar King's progress, and then destroyed the Hollow Earth. This wasn't what Barb wanted, but it was the only way to prevent Skar King's victory. The Muto bloodbath began just as soon, Barb hiding away as every single Muto ended up killing each other. And finally, at least for now, Barb was the last living thing on Earth. Just smoke, ash skeletons, and herself. The Muto Prime buried herself deep into the ground, wanting to never wake up again until she would be needed. And then again, she regretted what she had done. The end.